Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. Well, I'm up at the Campobello Community Gardens, just opened yesterday. It's in front of the Campobello Lodge nursing home. It's a 30-bed nursing home, quite a large building. And the idea was also to bring the community here to the lodge for the residents to enjoy watching. And there's a sidewalk that comes down the center of it here and benches that they could sit on. A dozen or so of these plots, I've managed to get one of them, and there are several still available. They're also doing this, attempting to do this, growing in straw bales. I've never tried it. I used straw as a mulch last year, but I've never grown directly in straw bale. But I'll show you some things over here they've already got growing in it. Sorry, this is bouncy. I'm hand holding the video camera. Didn't bring my tripod with me. This one has got some strawberry seedlings that they put in, and more strawberries along here, and this bale has got cucumbers in, so I'll be interested to see how that goes. I don't think I'll try it myself, but be interested to see how that works out. And these are potato bags. I think they're just growing these here at the nursing home. They'll use the new potatoes. Actually, I've told them anything that manages to grow in my little plot, they're welcome to it. I grow more at home than I can use myself. I just thought it would be fun to come up here and garden with some other people. As I said, there are several plots still available. Some of them have been taken. I don't think anybody's planted anything yet except me. I was here this morning and signed my papers and whatever, and came back this afternoon. Some lettuce and spinach out of the hoophouse, seedlings that were growing in the ground in the hoophouse. I dug some of them up and brought them and watered them in quite heavily. Hopefully they won't just wilt and die. One row of lettuce, one row of spinach. Next to that is 2 rows of peas, the peas that are called spring, the bush peas that I'm growing, and then a row of beets. I think these are probably about 4 feet wide, and they don't look to me any longer than 6, but I haven't measured it. It doesn't make any difference. And the rest of the space I will use when my tomato plants come up, and I have a couple of potatoes yet, seed potatoes, that I'll plant in there. So I'll probably add more clips later on about the Campobello Community Garden, but I'm very glad to see it off to a start, and you can't complain about that view. I won't get much work done up here. I'll be stopping to watch the view. Well, it's May 28th, and the black currants are starting to bloom. I'm trying to be quiet so you can hear all the buzzing. I don't know if this camera will pick up the sound. I'd never be lucky enough to get a shot of one, but they're being well pollinated. Lots of wild bees, bumblebees mostly, around this morning. We have sunshine, which I suppose is what brought them out. It has been so long here with cold, wet, dark weather. But at least today is a nice sunny day, and I have been planting my cucumbers, sunflowers, and squash seeds. I'll give you a look at that in just a second here. Under the white spun-bonded fabric, or fleece, whichever you call it, are all of my seedlings, tomatoes and peppers, and the geraniums that were growing under light at the house. They've been out here now for about a week, and I have them under 2 layers of the fleece. I'm going to remove 1 layer today. The idea wasn't that it would be cold enough in here that it would damage them, and I was trying to keep frost off them or anything, but sort of using it as a shade cloth as the plants harden off. So I put 2 layers, so they've been under 2 for a week. I'll take 1 off today and leave them perhaps for another week or so before I plant them out and take some up to the community garden. And this is some of the cucumbers, squash, and sunflowers that I planted. That's the majority of them. I have a few more in other pots. I hope I have better luck with the germination than I had with those larger pots that I thought I would start earlier. A Lisboa cucumber came up, and one of the blue Hubbards came up, and it died, and nothing else surfaced. It's been so cold, and I was keeping them damp. No sunshine, really. I suspect the other seeds probably rotted. I hope that doesn't happen to these, because that's the end of my seed. Well, excuse the weeds, and places where you see a hole, where I dug out lettuce plants and spinach to take up to the community garden yesterday. I've been rather busy traveling quite a bit the last 10 days or so, so I haven't had a chance to do very much weeding. But that first patch is the mixture of supposedly 12 lettuce plants, decent germination. But the next one over was the package of mesclun, and it seems to be mostly lettuce. There's sort of an oak leaf thing there that I tried one yesterday to see what I thought of it, and it's okay. It's very mild, but it's not exactly a lettuce. I'm not sure what it is. It said there could be some Asian greens mixed in with it, but soon I'll have enough there to start picking for a salad. And the last one down below here is the spinach, and they're coming along nicely. Another hole there where I took some up to the community garden. Well, that'll conclude for today anyway, but I'll do several more clips in several more days, I guess, before I upload this. Well, Angel and I are on our way out to the hoop house. Angel's eating some grass, which she does quite often. I wanted to give you a look at my plum trees first. The closest one here, and this one over here with lots of blossoms, are just pollinators. They help pollinate the large purple plum tree, which is in behind here. But there are lots of blossoms, so hopes of lots of plums. I'll show you the actual tree that will hopefully have plums. Hard pressed to stick another blossom on that. It's looking great. This is another cool, foggy day here. And we're going to go out to the hoop house, and I hope to transplant my tomatoes and pepper plants into the ground inside the hoop house. The long-range forecast is predicting an unusually hot summer for us. Well, it certainly hasn't started yet. Cold, backward. I don't know, we have rain, but there's more days of fog and drizzle than heavy rain, but we can't seem to get more than one day of sunshine in a row anyway. Time for the big unveiling. They've been under the row cover, the fleece, for about 2 weeks. 2 layers and then 1 layer, so I'm hoping that they are hardened off now. They're looking fairly healthy. Now I see if I can get things rearranged in here so I can find a place to plant what I want to put in here, I guess. This is where Angel patiently waits for me. She lays on the straw outside of the hoop house. It's too hot to come inside, I guess. But what I wanted to show you wasn't exactly Angel right now. That's one of my Aztec rainbow hot chili peppers. But it hasn't been, I haven't transplanted any of those out yet, but they still look very nice and healthy. But what I wanted to talk about is these things. I think maybe they're made by Jiffy, I'm not sure, but they're compressed peat moss, and I haven't used them in years, but I was running short on smaller pots, and I had a stack of these, so I used them. They tell you that you can just pot that right out into the garden. Some people just remove a little bit around the top so that it's all below the soil and it doesn't wick out the moisture. However, I never do that. I just think that's one more thing for the plant to have to fight its way through. And that's what mine look like before I plant them. I just tear them open and knock the plant out of it and put them directly in the ground. I just don't feel that you have to waste any more time with the plant fighting its way through this stuff, which when it's dry is just like cardboard. Well, I don't think you can see all of the plants that I transplanted in there, but there's plenty of space between them, and I do that deliberately. I usually get things planted too close together, and when they're full grown, they're crowded. If you can make out 3 tomato plants that are sort of more down the center, and you probably can't see the monofilament, but they already have support wire string going down to them. Those are the 3 of my indeterminate varieties. The first one is Wentzell, which I was reading this morning is a pink variety of brandywine, which has been selected for many years to be for a short season area like I live in. So I'm going to plant one of those in my plot at the community garden too, and it'll be at least one, maybe a couple in here when I get the other bed ready. The next one is Pruden purple, and the final one in that row of 3 is a Halvor, one of Halvor's F1 hybrids. He bred them himself in Norway. And Dave, if you this seed came from Southpaw David in Switzerland. I had Halvor's yellow, tall, indeterminate rather, tomato years ago, but I've lost the seeds on it. And so Dave provided me with this one. It's a slightly different variety. And Dave, you've grown it before. Is it determinate or indeterminate? I'm planting it as it might be an indeterminate, but it doesn't seem to be. It's a much smaller plant than the rest of the indeterminates that I've grown. They're all started at the same time, so it doesn't make any difference. It's planted where it's at, and I'm anxious to give it a try. And off to the right, if you see 4 more tomatoes, a little further off to the right than center, those are all determinates, and they're all the Cole variety, which is supposed to be a very early tomato for a short season area. And to the left here, there are 4 pepper plants, and those are all King of the North, the variety that is a green bell pepper that's supposed to grow well in a short season. So that's that bed planted. It's still not cleared off out, but the sun feels like it's trying to get out, and it's getting hot in here. So I think that will be it until this evening. I'll tackle the second bed this evening. Well, I still haven't got out to do the other bed yet, but the sun actually came out, and I took Angel hiking. And now I'm cutting some asparagus for dinner this evening. I guess I haven't said this is June 3rd. I'm having my first asparagus. Well, my first cooked asparagus. I eat a lot of my asparagus raw in the garden. I really like it raw just as well as I do cooked. And this is, as you can see, a weedy asparagus patch. Even though I mulch this heavily every fall with chicken manure, when I clean out the chicken coops, I put a good heavy layer of it on the asparagus patch. It still comes up thickly in oxalis, and I also have that inside the hoop house. It's a curse. Can't seem to get rid of it. Well, I think that will do for my first asparagus of the season. Can't think of the name of the variety. It has a purple top on it. It just tastes like any other asparagus as far as I'm concerned. I love it, but everything in this bed now seems to be this purple topped one. Well, I've been worried with all of this cold and damp weather that my seed potatoes would rot. But now in almost all of them, I can see where they're starting to come up. So it's got 3 little pieces there on that one. 4th one, I guess, right there that I just uncovered. So won't be long and I'll be able to earth those up a little more. Looks like the potatoes have survived anyway. But it looks like I'll have to wait until tomorrow morning to plant the tomatoes and peppers in that second bed. It took forever to move all the little pots and get them in a place where they wouldn't fall over and get them all watered and whatever. Got the bed cleared out basically, but it's got to be weeded, and I like to use the fork. I just stick the fork in and twist it to sort of mix the layers together. I haven't done that yet. It had a layer of composted chicken manure put on it, and then a layer of the Pro Mix organic soil mix. I did this. I mixed it in the bed where I've already planted, but I haven't done it in this bed yet. It looks like, I think maybe wild vetch has come up in it everywhere, and also a lot of mint. I've got two different kinds of mint. I have my Moroccan mint, and they started last year, and one called apple mint, and as people say, it is invasive. It doesn't really bother me. If it comes up somewhere where I don't want it, I pull it out, and that's what I'll have to do in the morning before I plant the tomatoes and peppers in that bed. So I'll see you in the morning. Well, June the 4th, the day after the last clip, and I got that bed weeded, I guess, and planted. The only tomato plants that I have put supports to so far are the ones that are indeterminate. I haven't put any supports up on the determinate varieties, but I can do that later if it should become necessary, either with bamboo canes or the same system that I'm using with this. But I'm hoping that at least a lot of them won't require support. Famous last wishes. And the taller plants down there are herbs that I have had since last year, and they've overwintered and are up and are doing quite good. And you can see that grapevine down at the back on the, well, just behind this the bed that I just planted. I want to give you a close-up of that in a second. And obviously you can see where there are still lots of seedlings in pots. Tomorrow I plan to take quite a bit of them up to the new community garden, and that'll give me a chance to show you what's been happening at the community garden to close this video off. A lot more plots are in use and whatever, so we'll have a look at that. But let's have a look at that grapevine right now. The last couple of years, my pruning method has been at least a version of what I have seen in vineyards in France. Not sure what the grape variety is that they grow this way, but they prune off all of last year's growth, and they're left basically with a shorter trunk than I've got here. And I have never been back in France after it starts growing. I'm always there in the spring, and I've never seen what it looks like if they train it along wires or what they do. But anyway, I cut the last 2 years, this year and last year, I cut off everything that grew the previous year, and it just leaves out and starts growing new long canes again. But if you can see the number of clusters of grape blossoms that are coming on that one little spot, it did produce very well last year. I don't think I got anything out of it. I kept tasting them and they got sweet enough, and then when I came back out, there was nothing on it. I don't know what got them, if it was squirrels or I can't imagine birds large enough getting in here to get them, but something else enjoyed them last year. I didn't get them, and the variety is called Beta. It's a slipskin type grape similar to Concord. One of the derivatives of Concord, I suspect, because it tastes a lot like Concord too. Well, a couple of things that I forgot to say. The chilies peppers are planted in this bed. The sweet peppers are over in the other bed. And at the bottom of the video, on YouTube anyway, I will put the plant list for anybody who's interested in what all those different numbers refer to. That'll show you the varieties that I'm using. Well, I finally got around to dropping off some seedlings at the community garden. Some peppers and tomatoes anyway. Other things aren't ready yet. They're just starting to come up in the hoop house. Taking a look at my little plot first. Don't know if it shows up on the video or not. The beets are coming up nicely, and my peas are up. Both the spinach and the lettuce seem to have taken the transplant quite well. And over here I have planted 2 potatoes sort of down in that trough there, but they're not up yet. They haven't been in very long. And I'm just about to put in a Wentzell tomato and an Aztec rainbow chili pepper. So I'll show you that as soon as I get them in the ground. Well, the Wentzell tomato, of course, is an indeterminate, tall variety of brandywine, a pink brandywine, so with large tomatoes, hopefully, and supposedly for this climate. So I'm anxious to grow it outside as well as in the hoop house. And this is a good location. Could be windy here, but it gets excellent sun exposure all day on a good day. So they should do all right. And next to that, if you can see the little purple leaves, that's an Aztec rainbow. Let's go look at some of the other plots. I'm the only one here at the moment, so I really don't know who owns each plot. This one is all planted with lettuce and carrots and tomatoes and onions. I see onions that are coming up there. Beans, peas, spinach, a good variety in that little plot. And nothing up in this one yet, but some of these plots were started quite a bit later than mine was. But they have Swiss chard, beets, looks like Detroit red, and potatoes. I think this herb garden was planted by the nursing home here. Some of the staff have planted it. It's got a great variety of herbs in it. I see lavender and thyme, summer savory, rosemary, sage, basil, parsley, chives, and it looks like dill over on the other end there, but they're all off to a good start. And again, I don't know who they belong to. This has got cucumber and onions. I see their onions are coming up. Lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, and peas. Let's have a look at some of the straw bales and see how that's working out. Well, the strawberry plants are coming along quite nicely. I don't really understand how it works. Obviously, there's some soil on top, and then the seedlings are put in. I don't know if they also put soil down in through the straw or not. It would be very difficult to do because these are very tight bales, but so far everything's looking quite good. This is going to be interesting for me. I want to follow this summer. It's something I've never done. This one has been planted with peppers. The variety is Carmen. I'm thinking it's a sweet pepper, but the little photograph of it on the tag there shows sort of a cylindrical shape, something like a jalapeno, but I'm quite sure it's a sweet pepper. That's one end of this plot. Nothing up in this bale yet, but that's carrots. And their final bale is planted with tomatoes, and they are yellow pear tomato. I've grown them before. They are delicious little things and very prolific. In my recollection, they grow quite tall, but there is sort of a support system up above the bales here. I'll show you that in just a second here. Hopefully the wires are showing up. There are metal support rods on each end of the bales, and they have 2 strands of wire so far going across. So once the tomatoes get high enough, you could support them, tie them to those, or tie canes to those and support them through tying them to the canes, I guess, but it should work. There's a look back at the community garden. You see some of the residents are out on the deck there. They're having a barbecue for lunch. I've been invited. I've got to try to get out of it because I'm a vegetarian. It was very kind of them to invite me. And that will conclude this little update at the community garden anyway, and I'll bring you along many times through the season so we can see how things are going. And I've got 1 or 2 more things at home that I want to add, and then I'll close this video down. Back home, just wanted to show you some of the fruit trees that are starting to bloom. That's my grafted Asian pear. A lot of blossoms on it this year. And slowly it's getting larger, so I'm hopeful for larger pears. So far they've been about, I don't know, roughly half size of what you see in a grocery store for an Asian pear, but they're very crisp and juicy, and I've enjoyed them no matter what the size is, I guess. Hopefully you can see some white blossoms there somewhere. The sun is so bright, not that I'm complaining, I'm enjoying the sun. I can't see the screen to see what you're looking at. But these are the Romance series cherry trees. They're not a sweet cherry, they're a pie cherry or a sour cherry, whatever. 3 different plants. The 2 that you're looking at have started to bloom. There's one more here beside me. The one beside me is the only one I remember the name. It's Juliet. And it hasn't opened up its blossoms yet, but it's got many more blossoms than the other 2 have. So I had a few blossoms last year and no cherries. So fingers crossed for some cherries this year. My 3 Hazcap bushes have been in full bloom for, almost 2 weeks. The blossoms are almost finished and it's set a lot of fruit. I'm not as excited about that as I used to be because I don't like the things. I find them very sour. I'm hoping someday these bushes will be large enough, maybe this year, I don't know, that I would get enough off of it to make a small batch of jam. With sugar added in a jam, I might care for it more, but it isn't anything that I would want to just pick off the tree and eat anyway. They're very sour. A lot of pollinators this year. Wonderful. I always have some, but it seems to me like there are many more wild bumblebees. I've even seen hornets that were working the black currant bushes. I think this crabapple has been here 3 years. It's a crabapple that you actually get apples off of, not those ornamental ones that are grown mostly for their blossoms, and their apples are the size of berries, which the birds like. But this is a red crabapple called Dolgo. I'm hoping for enough off of it one of these years, along with the chestnut one behind, which I'll show you in a minute, that I'll be able to make crabapple jelly. I love crabapple jelly. They had a few blossoms last year, but didn't set any fruit. And this one has got a lot of blossoms this year, so I'm hopeful of a few crabapples. This one is called chestnut, and the apple sort of looks like a russet apple, at least that's what I've seen from photographs. I've never actually seen the apple. And it has 5 or 6 clusters of blossoms on it this year. They aren't open yet because the first one that I just showed you gets more sun than this one does. But we're having a sunny day today, so hopefully more of them will open up. And this is only 2 years in my garden. The first one that I planted leaved out and died immediately, and I alerted the company that I bought it from, and they said they'd send me another one the following year, and they did. And the one that they sent the following year was much larger, so this is even larger than the Dolgo that's been here for 3 years. I'm not sure if this is in focus because it's hard for the camera to focus on something that small. I'll put the clip on whether it's focused or not. What we're looking at is a 1-year whip that I just purchased, and the variety is Wolf River. Google Wolf River if you've never seen a Wolf River apple. They are enormous. A friend of mine down in Maine, on the Maine coast in Roque Bluffs, had one, and I used to see her apples every fall. They're amazing. These are 1 year old, as I said, and it was shipped to me bare root. And what they do in this country anyway is they lift them in the fall, and they're stored in cold storage over the winter. So they're quite dormant when they arrive, but the buds that you can hopefully see there, the leaf buds starting to open up, are much larger than they were when it arrived, so I'm confident that it's alive. I don't know if I'll still be alive when it's large enough to have its first Wolf River apple, but hope for so anyway. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'll get this put together and uploaded on YouTube. And then once again, there will be the list of my peppers and tomatoes and the other things that I've got sown down below the video.